or high. Damascus, the capital and the second largest, after Aleppo. The city in Syria, the most ancient of all capitals in the world. It is located in southwest Syria near east foothills of the East Lebanese mountain ridge on East Plateau. Height of 680 meters above sea level. In the lower watercourse of Berat, where it is separated into 7 sleeves. Damascus is territorially located in a subtropical belt. Nevertheless, despite proximity of the Mediterranean Sea, climate of the city hot and droughty. Damascus, the most ancient of the modern capitals and one of the oldest cities of the world. The first mentions of it belong to 2500 BC. Besides, Damascus is the large cultural and religious center of Levant. Sunrise in traditional Russian translation, the Middle East. Etymology. For the first time the name Damascus is mentioned in the geographical list Tutmos III Stms in the 15th century BC. At the same time, the etymology of Tmsk still is definitely not defined and perhaps has Semitic roots. Indirect confirmation of it is Damascus in Akkad language, Tmsw in Egyptian, Damask. In classic Aramaic language in Damasek. In Bible Hebrew. Akkad writing is revealed among the inscriptions in a Marnsky archive dated the 14th century BC. Later in Aramaic language the name meets the roots designating the dwelling, for example Qumransky Darmizek. The Syrian Darmsuk. The Latin, English, Russian, Belarusian and Ukrainian name, Damascus, has been borrowed from ancient Greek which goes back to Aramaic, well-watered place. Geography and topography. The city is located at distance about 80 kilometers from the Mediterranean Sea, to the east from Ridge Anti-Lebanon, and stands on the plateau, towering on 680 meters above sea level. The total area of Damascus is 105 km, 77 of which is actually the region of urban development, and the rest is occupied with Mount Cassian. The district of the old city from the remains of fortification constructions is on the southern river bank of Berat, almost dried up. Average height of water is about 3 centimeters. From the southeast, the north and the northeast it is surrounded with the areas of Almaden, Saradza and Amara. Their history goes back to the Middle Ages period when leaders to the city of Rhodes, in close proximity to burials of religious figures, had settlements. In the 19th century active settling as well Cassian's slopes has begun. Though people lived there and earlier Salakiya's suburb, for example, was created near a sanctuary of the Sheikh Ibn Arabi. Initially mentioned settlements were under construction the Kurdish military formations and Muslim refugees from the European regions of the Ottoman Empire. They are located at distance from 2 to 3 kilometers to the north from the old city. At the end of the 19th century to the west from the old city, on Berat's coast, the modern administrative and shopping center which heart is known as Almaty Meadow has begun to be formed. This name soon began to be associated with the main square of Damascus where the municipality building is located. Slightly higher, to the south, magistrates' courts, post office and the station have been placed. In turn, residential quarters of the European type were under construction at the road conducting from Al-Marzi to Al-Salakiya. The business and administrative center of the new city was gradually displaced in the same direction over time. By the beginning of the 20th century, new areas were under construction both to the north from Barada and on the southern direction, partially occupying the territory of an oasis of Gap. Since 1955, one of those, Yarmouk, became the place of residence of a great number of the Palestinian refugees. Topographers and designers sought to avoid influence of the city on an oasis, so towards the end of century the city extended mainly on the north and on the west. Region of El Maza. In recent years construction was conducted also in Barada's valley in the northwest. Region of Dummer. And on slopes of mountains to the northeast. Region of Barza. Two quarters in which buildings were often built without official sanctions were formed generally to the south from the main part of the city. Quds oasis supplied by water from the Barada River surrounded Damascus earlier. To the west on the valley of the river the source Fichek providing the city with drinking water was located. In process of active expansion of the city and construction of new inhabited and industrial buildings, the oasis was reduced in sizes. Now there is practically no water left in it. In addition to drying, it has also undergone pollution in view of intensive traffic in the city and active dumping of various waste, including drain waters. The climate of Damascus is subtropical semi-desertic. The summer very hot and almost without any precipitations, but is softened with the city height, which is about 680 meters above sea level. Rainfall in Damascus is rare. In a year 113 of rainfall, generally drop out in the winter. The winter in Damascus is much colder than in the majority of the territories adjacent to the Mediterranean Sea. At night often there are frosts, is more rare, the small frost sometimes drops at snow. Average temperature of January is about +6 C. The summer in Damascus is typical for the cities of the Mediterranean climate. Hot and droughty, rainfall practically does not happen. Warmest month July, which average temperature is +27.3 C is. Daily fluctuations quite big. At night even in the hottest days usually cool. In summer months the difference can exceed 20 C, and in the winter usually makes 10 C. Date of the basis of Damascus is lost in centuries prior to the beginning of our era. The medieval Arab historian Ibn Asakir, the 12th century, claimed that the Damascus wall was the first wall erected after a flood, and referred the emergence of the city to the 4th millennium BC. The first historical data on Damascus belong to the 15th century BC, when the city was under the power of the Egyptian pharaohs. In the 10th centuries BB, the center of the Damascus kingdom. Then Selevkedev was a part of Assyria, the new Babylon kingdom, Israeli kingdom, power of Achaemenid, Alexander of Macedon's empire, and the Hellenistic kingdom which has arisen after his death. In the 83rd year BC, Damascus and all Syria became a part of the Armenian Empire of Tigran Veliki. In the 64th year BC, the Roman commander Pompey has attached it to the Roman Empire. Here the headquarters of the Roman legions which were at war with Persians was placed. The 64th year BC, The Greek historian and the philosopher peripatetic Nikolai Damascus was a native of the city during this era. In 395 the city was a part of Byzantium. The first Christians have appeared in Damascus in the 1st century of our era after the visit of the Apostle Pavel. As a result of the defeat inflicted by Arabs of the Byzantine army in fight at Yarmouk. August 636. Damascus was a part of the Arab Caliphate. From 661 to 750 years Damascus was the capital of the Caliphate of a dynasty Umayyad stretching from Indus to the Piraeus. Later the city was under the power of the Egyptian dynasties, and in 1076 became a part of the state of the Turkish Seljuks. Crusaders 3 times. In 1125, 1129 and 1148. Last time during the Second Crusade. Without results tried to capture Damascus. In 1154 Damascus has been taken by Norse troops Muhammad's Haldine. After his death in 1174 Damascus was passed under the power by Ayyubadav. In 1260 power in Damascus was seized by the Egyptian Mamelukes. The period of their board was marked by blossoming of art and craft. The damask steel and the damask glass was exported to Europe. In 1300 Damascus was plundered by Mongols. They have arranged such slaughter that, according to the Arab historian al-Makrizi, on streets the river blood flowed. In 1400 Tamerlane has razed the city to the ground. The best armorers and handicraftsmen were taken away in slavery to Samarkand. When in 1516 Damascus was occupied by troops of the Turkish Sultan Selim, the city still lay half in ruins. In the Ottoman Empire Damascus became one of the provincial centers known only as transit point for the pilgrims going to a Hajj to Mecca. In 1833 Mechmedaliyah, having seized Syria, has subordinated to himself temporarily in Damascus, but the European allies of the Sultan have returned it together with Syria to Turkey in 1840. From July 9 to July 16, 1860 Damascus became the witness of slaughter of Christians by Druzes. From 1920 to 1943 Damascus was the administrative center of the mandated territory of Syria submitting to France, and after declaration of independence of Syria in 1943 became its capital. During the civil war in Syria in 2012 fighting between government forces and the armed opposition for control over the city was unrolled. Demography. The population of the city by calculations of 2012 is made by 1,907,471 persons. In agglomeration officially there lived 2,552,003 people. Data for January 1, 2006. Informal estimates give much more large numbers. Due to the civil war which has begun in 2011 to the city, the great number of refugees and temporary immigrants has rushed. Many of them live at the relatives, others in budget hotels and rental apartments and houses. As a result in the city rather serious problems with the real estate let have begun. The cost of rent of housing has also considerably increased and became inaccessible for most of the Syrians working in public sector. Religion. Most of Damascens are Sunnites. In Damascus there are more than 200 mosques, the most known is Umayyad Mosque. Christians make 10% of the population, and there is a number of Christian areas such as Tums Heads, Kasa and Ghassani. In the city there are a lot of churches. There is a small Jewish community. The ancient synagogue, which was in the region of Jobar, has been destroyed by the fighters who have occupied the area. Transport. The main airport is the International Airport of Damascus, which is located approximately in 20 km from the downtown, connecting Syria with many large Asian, European, African and South American cities. Due to the sanctions announced against Syria and in connection with Syria's decrease in passenger traffic to Syria, now international flights performs from reasons of safety only Syrian airlines and a number of airlines of Iran. Except international flights, local flights to the cities of Latakia, Kamishla, by Aleppo are performed from the airport of Damascus. The last can be cancelled in connection with a situation in this city. Streets in a historical part of Damascus often narrow, designed during the Ottoman and even antique period. Public transport in Damascus consists of network of minibuses and big passenger buses. There are about 100 lines which act on the territory of the city, and some of them go from the downtown to nearby suburbs. Once in Damascus there was a tram which has been abolished subsequently. In some places fragments of rail are still visible. The historical building of the Hijaz station functions only as the office building now. In it employees of the Syrian railroads work. The building of the station is an architecture monument. An entrance to the building for its survey during an operating time of employees in it free. The railroads of Syria do not function because of a number of the terrorist attacks arranged with fighters now. In 2008 the government declared intention to build the subway in Damascus. Construction of the first line of the capital subway, called Green, was going to begin in 2013 with financial participation of the European Union and France. Opening of the Green Line has been planned for 2015. It was supposed that the Green Line will become an important part of future network of public transport serving capital regions of Modamiyeh, Sumariya, Mez, the Damascus University Hijaz, the Old City, Abizian and Kaboun Pullman bus station. All network of the subway, consisting of 4 lines, it was going to put into operation by 2050. Education. Damascus is the main center of education in Syria. The University of Damascus is the oldest and largest university in Syria. After adoption of the legislation allowing private educational institutions, several new universities have been created in the city and in adjacent areas, including International University of Science and Technology, the highest institute of business administration, the highest institute of applied science and equipment, Halaman University, Arab International University, National Institute of Management, museums, the National Museum in Damascus, National Museum of Damascus, Hazar el-Azam, Azima Palace, Military Museum, Museum of the Arab Calligraphy, Art, the highest institute of music and drama, Opera, Theatre of Dar al-Bama Assad. Sites. The approximate old town square in Damascus surrounded with shaft from northern, east and partially south side reaches 128 hectares. In Damascus 7 remain city gate and a wall of the old city, the oldest of which go back to the Roman period. Clockwise, since the north of the Damascus citadel. Bab el Sagir. Small gate. Behind gate are historical burials, in particular 2 wives of the Prophet Muhammad, the first Muezzin in Islam Bilal al-Abyssinites, and also the scientist Al-Farabi are buried here. The native from the territory of modern Kazakhstan. Bab el-Faradis. Paradise Gate. Bab el-Salam. World Gate. Tom's Heads. Thomas's Gate. The name goes back to a name of the Apostle Thomas, conducting Christian quarter of the old city. Shark's Heads. East Gate. Heads Kazan, constructed during an era of Romans, have been devoted to god to Saturn. Through them, according to the legend, Damascus was fled by the Apostle Pavel. Bab el-Jabiyah. Except these 7 gates, there are also others outside the old city. Al-Faras Heads. Heads Masala. Heads of Syria. Churches. Umayyad Mosque. Cathedral of Damascus. Virgin Mary's Cathedral. Saint Ananias' house. The Roman Catholic Cathedral in the quarter of Zeton. The former Jewish quarter. Saint Ioan's Church. Loris St. Paul. Saint George's Sanctuary. Saint Sarkis's Church. Mosques. The Mosques Eid Zainab. In the suburbs near the road to the airport. Mosques Eid Ruqya. Umayyad Mosque, the largest mosque of Syria and one of the most esteemed mosques of the Arab world. Madrasa. Al-Adiliyah's Madrasa. Az-Zakariya Library. Noor ad-Din's Madrasa. Parks and gardens. The Tishrin Park is the largest park in Damascus. Here the annual flower show is held. In the city there are also other parks. Al-Shiz, Al-Sibki, Al-Tizara and Al-Yaka. Sport. Popular sports are soccer, basketball, swimming and table tennis. Many sports clubs are based in Damascus, such as Al-Jaish, Al-Waqda, Al-Mads. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.